Today, I would like to talk about something with you,
Okay.
and that is what is the nature of good beer?
How much time do you have? How much time do you have at home?
It's a big question.
This is a massive question. It's a good question though,
But to go to the core, it's like I get asked a lot from the customers. Well, how do you find a good beer? And for me, there are some indicators where I can tell, okay, this is probably gonna be rather good.
Mhm.
I talk about the difference between industrial beers and small breweries. But you as a brewer, I can come back to my topics later. But you as a brewer, what for you is the nature of a good beer?
Yeah. So as you guys probably know, I started brewing in America, where we are kind of known for a little bit more wild experimentation and some of the newer styles of beer that have taken the market. Hazy IPA being probably the most notable one recently. So it's a difficult question because anything that revolves around taste is going to be inherently subjective. It's something that you can't answer for somebody else. There's no accounting for taste. But as a brewer, what I look for is balance, consistency. These are things that come from solid technical execution of the brewing process. And by that, I mean, it's sort of easy to make a beer with 10 different ingredients one time that can sort of mask your indiscretions along the way. Because, I mean, even an artist starts with a sketch of something that they want to create. You don't magically create it out of thin air. So there's going to be attempts. So to make something once, sometimes you get very lucky, and some people are very good recipe creators, but it's a much more difficult thing. So when I say consistency, I say the ability to create a recipe or a style, and then to recreate it time and time again, so that oh, this is that beer. And
I mean, this is something you can just recognize by drinking the same beer over the time from the same brewery, where you can say this is a consistent beer, or
exactly.
having big
Exactly.
ups and downs. Like you said with the Quellfrisch, where you said it's not consistent compared to the Feldschlösschen, where rather if you like it or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I never seen it that way.
Yeah.
Funny enough, this is something I think very brewery specific.
Yeah, and I think in the modern times with Untapped, which is an application that people use to log in all the different types of beers that they've drank, I think for a lot of people what makes a good brewery is the ability to constantly produce new things. And I would argue sort of to the contrary. I think I like to see consistent offerings that are made in a consistent way, so they're recognizable. And when I'm going to go spend my hard-earned money, I know what those beers are going to taste like. I know what to expect, and the specifications, the alcohol, the color, the different flavor profiles are going to be consistent. And for me, that's something that is difficult to do as a brewer year round, to create the same product time and time again. So I don't mean it to disparage creativity or innovation. I just mean as a customer, when I want a certain beer, I want it to taste the same way. I want to know that it's being handled in the same manner.
So saying we're staying with the question, what is the nature of good beer?
Yeah.
For you, it's the consistency.
It's the consistency, and then the other. I mean, it's hard for me to divorce myself from being a brewer versus being a drinker, because they're very tied together.
Nicely said.
Yeah, but what I would say is, you have the consistency, and then you have the balance. And I don't care about the style of beer. Honestly, you can have some of the most aggressive and sort of avant-garde styles like, Gueuze, which is completely spontaneously fermented in one small region of Belgium. There's no yeast added. There's a tremendous amount of terroir. But what you get is a tremendously consistent offering. If we did a Gueuze tasting, I could probably tell you Dreifonteinen from Cantillon from Bern. Challenge me. If he wants to spend the money on a tasting, I'll take that game.
Yeah.
But what you do is you have characteristics, and some of those are based on the geography, blah, blah, blah. I would say less so than the methodology and the technique that's created in constructing them. And then with Gueuze, you have the blending aspect, which is where you get the balance. So you can take wildly disparate beers, blend them into a consistent offering over time. And then the same thing with any recipe. Like we were talking about, with Imperial Stout, it's a very big, round monster of a beer. But what you want is you want the sweetness, the bitterness, and then the sort of adjunct and whatever else, the sweetness, the bitterness, that roasted character. There's a lot of elements going on, and it's sort of like an equalizer on a soundboard. It's
a very nice picture.
You don't want any feedback.
Yeah.
So when you drink a beer that's well executed, no matter what the style is, there's this sort of lovely kind of curve from sip to finish, where you have that sort of consistent, gentle curve rather than this up and down and then a weird off note at the end.
I mean, me coming from being a musician, also having a professional musician at home, it's a really nice picture, and also I always think it's very important for the customer or for you guys to understand that this experience you get better in something. Yeah. And as a brewer as well, you've done imperial style or whatever style. The more you do it, the more you have the possibilities to tweak, to test, to craft your skills on a certain beer style.
And I would say you also have sort of a toolbox to draw from. You're not just creating wild things out of thin air. You have made the basic styles, you've made the consistent styles, and then you say, "Ooh, I like this one element, so I'm going to borrow that, and I like this," and you borrow that, and you try and bring those into balance. And that's sort of the art of brewing. Brewing is a lot of chemistry, it's a lot of math, it's
but also I think a lot of experience. I mean, you need to do it. I mean, I'm not a brewer, but this is something I saw with a lot of other brewers. The experience brings you more than the theory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The hard work you put into to trying it again and again gets you faster to the. I don't think there's a finishing line, but to the goal.
Yeah.
Than just thinking and getting the information without working the craft.
Yeah, and it is exactly that. It's a craft. It's not an art. It's a trade. And so for me, I come at it from a technical standpoint, not purely like aesthetic, just drinking, but there's a certain harmony that you get with a beer that is well considered and well constructed, because it takes a lot of different elements, the water chemistry, the malt that you're using, the obviously the hops are going to be a big one, and then the yeast. And those are 4 basic things on that mixing board that you need to adjust to get kind of harmonious sound or flavor. Like it's something that does take some experience, but when you taste, you don't need experience to taste it. I guess that's the point I'm making. When you taste something really well constructed, even if it's a dessert or a cheese or anything that takes talent and skill to construct, people can taste that. There's a quality aspect, I think. And that's where you get different styles, because some people are going to enjoy the sweeter beers. Some people are going to enjoy more bitter beers. Myself, these sorts of things that are subjective, but at the core, what makes a great beer is that balance and that consistency for me.
Absolutely.
Disclaimer.
No. I love to listen or to hear from you all this knowledge, and being in the beer industry for how much years?
Longer than I would like to admit, probably at this point. Yeah.
I mean, still
going on 20 years.
It's a lot of information we get out of you, but also where I would like to go without being a professional in this, if somebody would ask me what's the nature of good beer, are a couple of simple things. So first of all, and I don't know if you're gonna agree with that, for me, unfiltered beer is a sign when I see it on the shelf that probably it's gonna be the better beer when it's fresh.
Yeah.
But the unfiltered beer, there's gonna be probably more taste in the bottle or whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with that as well, from a technical standpoint, it means you need to have really solid sanitation practices in your beer. All of our beers are unfiltered. Not just because I get asked that question, and people sometimes ask me, well, when I go to a big liquor store or something, how can I define the good beers from the bad beers? I mean, this is also a marketing standpoint of view. You like the label or not, but something I like to use, especially when I'm not in Switzerland, is I take unfiltered beers. If that's on the label, for me, that's something I know, okay, it's probably gonna be from a small brewery, and also unpasteurized. Because I think then you have way much, also more flavor in the beer. You have a bigger risk as a brewer or the brewery, because you don't get it that stable as it would be filtered or pasteurized. Because, I mean, you can correct me, but filtering a beer makes the beer more stable. Yeah, that's
and therefore you can ship it around the globe.
Yes.
The same with pasteurization.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it would hurt to pasteurize a beer for no reason. Yeah. This is a transportation reason. This is not to bring more quality into the beer.
Yeah,
you bring more stability.
Yeah.
You know it's going to taste about the same when you fill it.
You can also have the presence of other microbes in the beer.
Yeah.
And while they haven't had a flavor effect that they would over the long term, if you package a beer with a small amount of, let's say, lactobacillus, when it's released and it's bottled, you can't taste that defect in the beer. But after 6 months of warm storage, it will begin to sour. Whereas if it's filtered, like Danny's saying, or pasteurized, that could be present in your brewing practice, and it could allow you to kind of slacken your sanitation and things like this, your cleaning processes, and the pasteurization will reduce the consequences of that. So it goes back to that technique as well.
Yeah. So that's probably more the technical side
that's
of it.
That's a good one, actually.
Next to the philosophically side.
Philosophy.
But yeah, this is something I, as a amateur,
it's
is something
interesting.
I look for. And of course, the nature of good beer, small breweries.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always gonna know, okay, they put passion into, they have thoughts, they have an idea, and it's always very interesting. So wherever I am, I ask for a beer from the region anyways. I mean, there are good macro beers, but it's like, I mean, I like the cheeseburger from McDonald's, but I would take 10 times more a good local cheeseburger or whatever it's going to be, of course.
Yeah. And that aspect of freshness and locality are pretty important, I think, as well. Yeah. I mean, it's not to say every small brewery out there is going to stack up. And
No, of
and-
course.
and-
It's a fashion. It's a trend. Still,
well, also just the process, technique, equipment. There's so many variables, but I agree. I think unfiltered beer, that's a interesting tip off. And yeah, kind of beware. Now, this might be controversial because there's a lot of people out there who love beers with tons of adjuncts in them. And by adjuncts, I mean like other ingredients other than the basic ingredients of, malt, water, hops, yeast.
das deutsche Reinheitsgebot.
And that's fine because I mean, anyone who knows me or the beers that I've made, I've done this plenty and I've been guilty of it. But I sort of am more. If I'm going to try a brewery for the first time, I would like to try something like a lager or a traditional pale ale, something in the more even contemporary classic like pale ale or IPA. I want to taste what that brewery makes, to taste what their basic kind of skill sets are, what their basic approach is before I try something with, oolong tea and mushrooms and some sort of fruit that grows in the Amazonian rainforest. I'm not as impressed by adjuncts as I used to be. I mean, they're interesting and they can make beer a lot of fun and I'm fine with it, but I like to taste the kind of core elements of a brewery before I dive into the crazy stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But that's me. I'm a cranky old man.
No. I'm. You're gonna laugh about it, but I'm the same.
Yeah. Oh wow. Some things is
I like special stuff. But I mean, 80% of the time you stay with the truth, with the simple stuff, because you can repeat it, and as long as you can repeat it and it's still good, there you are.
Yeah,
and then I get an IPA or whatsoever, and it's really good. And the second time you think, it's too much, or it's too much information as well.
Yeah, and it's overwhelming on the palate. And so I'm a 6-pack guy. I like knowing a beer. I was just back home in the States on the East Coast, and Lawson's Finest Beverages, which is a brewery in Vermont. They've been around for a long time. And they have a beer called Sip of Sunshine, and it's a double IPA, like not hazy, but more of a like turn of the century double IPA, and it's fantastic. And I was really impressed at how they've grown, and I saw it in a lot of places. And I got multiple 4-packs of this, and Denny knows me. I don't drink a lot of like large IPAs very often, but it was like an 8.5%. To us, double IPA in America, IPA. And I got it, probably 6 times. I was home for a month, so don't judge me. But
you brought some?
Yeah, totally. It's in my car.
Yeah, sure. The empty bottles.
Yeah, the cans are rattling around. But it's when you find that consistent beer and you can get I like beers that you can drink a couple of. If I'm gonna have a glass of something, I like to have a whiskey or a fine glass of sherry perhaps, but yeah.
Ooh, there I completely disagree.
Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, the consistency and that enjoyability, that balance, and when you have a beer even at 8% that's balanced, it's drinkable, and it was really nice to be able to grab a 4-pack of those. Thank God they don't come in 6-packs because wow, yeah.
Funny evening then.
Yeah. As long as you're not moving.
Yeah, but easy for you.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Again, experience, Daniel.
Yes.
You have to have the experience.
Experience and training.
Yep.
Whatsoever.
Well, yeah, thank you for listening to our philosophical ramblings.
Yes, I mean, this is something, it was rather a monologue than a dialogue, but but this was also the idea.
This.
Of course. But yeah, I think it's an important question and interesting question, and nobody will agree, or not everybody will agree on it, but it's something you can talk for hours.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask some friends tonight, and they're going to tell me, and I'm like, damn it.
If they're going to see the video, they think, what bullshit is he talking about? That's not.
Well, this is what he does. He doesn't let me prepare. I find out about these on the spot because I would have stolen everyone else's.
No. I like one takes.
Yeah.
And that was the nature of
You need to do the Werner Herzog voice.
What is the nature of craft beer, of flavor?
I can do that. If you want. Okay, thank you guys for joining us. See you around next time. Have a good whatsoever day, night.
Whenever this comes out.
Yeah. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a nice whatsoever.
Cheers, guys.